What if Anakin never turned to the dark side? As you know, in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin Skywalker succumbs to years of manipulation at the hands of the secret Sith Lord Sheev Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. Anakin's turn to the dark side and transformation into the infamous Darth Vader is one of, if not the, most significant moments in all of Star Wars. So, what would have happened if Anakin never turned to the dark side? This what-if scenario takes us from the bustling city of Coruscant to the secret warrior houses of Mandalore and tells us so much more. The story honestly takes so many unexpected turns, so enough talk, and let's get right into it. Our story begins with Anakin running into the Chancellor's office and being faced with a choice. He can either save Palpatine, the person that he sees to be the only one who can help him save Padme, or help Mace Windu, a fellow Jedi. In the main timeline, Anakin cuts off Windu's hand and watches as he falls to the streets of Coruscant, defeated by Palpatine. In our scenario, Anakin does neither. He merely watches, recalling Qui-Gon's early teachings about the ways of the living force, how it ebbs and flows, and how no one should attempt to interfere with its will. He allows this situation to play out without his meddling. This small decision has a massive ripple effect on the rest of the timeline, changing the outcome of several key events. The most one significant being the Jedi Temple siege. How, you may ask? Well, let's continue our story and find out. Following Anakin's decision to stay out of the conflict, Palpatine becomes enraged. He sees Mace raising his lightsaber to strike, and he pushes Windu out of the window. Haha, you get it? Window. He pushes Windu out the window. Not funny. Alright, moving on then. However, Mace is not taken aback by Anakin's betrayal, as he was in Revenge of the Sith, so he's able to break his fall with the Force and can call immediate backup to the office of the Chancellor. Palpatine is frustrated and baffled that Anakin refused to come to his aid. He pleads with Anakin one last time to join him, but the Jedi Knight refuses, continuing to hear the teachings of Qui-Gon resonating in his head from when he was a child. Because of this, Palpatine blasts Anakin with Force lightning in a fit of rage, cackling as the Jedi uses his lightsaber to block the onslaught. Anakin begins to break down, feeling the pressure of Palpatine's rage. However, at the exact moment when he is about to succumb to the Dark Lord, Mace Windu's backup arrives. As a group of Jedi, including Jocasta Nu, Gungi, and Oppo Rancisis enters, Anakin collapses with exhaustion. Palpatine shifts his focus to the incoming Jedi, but he's no match for the steady stream of them that are entering his office. So, he jumps out the window and uses the Force to slow his descent on top of a nearby hovercar. Palpatine pulls out his lightsaber and stabs the driver, stealing his vehicle and fleeing the scene. Even though Anakin wasn't able to overcome Palpatine's manipulation in this scenario and didn't betray Windu, since Palpatine was able to escape, he still manages to execute Order 66. Devastating violence engulfs the galaxy as the clones turn on their Jedi generals and former friends. Although it wouldn't play out exactly the same, most significantly at the Jedi Temple. Without Anakin to lead the charge on the temple, the clones would have a much more difficult time. So instead of an incredibly one-sided slaughter like we saw in Revenge of the Sith, an epic battle would ensue and eventually transition into a brutal siege with the vastly outnumbered Jedi holding out within the temple. These Jedi call for backup from remaining survivors across the galaxy, such as Cal Kestis and Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus. And Anakin calls on his old friend, Ahsoka. Meanwhile, in the Senate, a heavy debate rages as to the validity of the Chancellor's execution of Order 66. There are many Palpatine loyalists who supported the Chancellor's war effort and believed that the Jedi were going out of their way to usurp a popular, democratically elected head of state. Others argued that this war had gone too far and too long. They believed that the Chancellor had consolidated far too much power, so they supported the Jedi's efforts to remove him from office. Eventually, an incredibly close emergency vote is held, and the Senate decides to support the Jedi. They execute Order 65. Order 65, like Order 66, is an emergency contingency the Senate could vote on, and if activated, would incite the clones against a chancellor that they believed to be unfit for office by power of force, even if it required his killing. The decision to implement Order 65 overrides Palpatine's command, causing the clones to snap out of their haze and look for the disgraced chancellor. He's soon found by the clones who are stationed on Coruscant, but Palpatine easily slaughters many of them in cold blood with bursts of powerful Force lightning. However, as more and more clones arrive, eventually their numbers are far too great and Palpatine is subdued. He's thrown in prison under incredibly high security, and the Jedi are reunited with their former clone commanders. Some Jedi are angry, but most redirect their emotions and are able to forgive, as is the Jedi way. Anakin finds Padme, one of the main advocates for the apprehension of the Chancellor, and they catch each other up on what is going on. As Palpatine is in prison, he recuperates and changes his plan. He continues to try and goad Anakin, planting dreams into his mind of Padme's death. Anakin is plunged into a deep state of guilt, believing that he had sacrificed the love of his life to uphold Jedi values that, in the end, very well may be meaningless. Padme attempts to console him, but Anakin is still conflicted. He's unsure if he had made the correct decision. Palpatine also attempts to wear down the mind of one of the Jedi Temple guards in case Anakin continues to stay entrenched in his Jedi values. This Temple guard is also conflicted, believing that the Jedi were wrong to involve themselves with politics. He also believed that Palpatine was a chancellor who was looking out for the best interests of the Republic, and that the Jedi had interfered with something that they shouldn't have. This guard eventually comes to speak with Palpatine under heavy supervision and is swayed by his charismatic presence. While the guard doesn't explicitly say that he plans on betraying the Jedi, he hints at it with his words and body language. Palpatine doesn't know what's coming, but he can sense that the guard has made his decision. The guard conspires with Admiral Tarkin, another secret supporter of the Chancellor, and they are able to covertly hire a team led by Cad Bane to break the Chancellor out of jail. Due to previous experience in this area, Bane knows the weaknesses of the Republic prisons. Their plan begins with a Temple guard sneaking the Hunters some clone armor and the same voice-changing technology that Obi-Wan used in the box arc of the Clone Wars. Using these disguises, the team is able to break in and apprehend the former Chancellor, citing direct orders from Tarkin that he was to be moved to another facility. When called by the clone guards, Tarkin acknowledges this order and gives his approval. The bounty hunters are able to sneak Palpatine out unnoticed, making their escape quickly. When questioned about this event after the Chancellor is gone, Tarkin says that it was an oversight in security and blames his subordinate, rather than taking responsibility himself, directing punishments towards the clone soldiers. Due to Tarkin's high-ranking military status, neither the Temple Guard or Tarkin are implicated in this crime. Palpatine requests that the team drop him off on Mandalore, where he can continue his plan. During this time, Anakin's fears about Padme's death are relieved. She successfully gives birth, and he becomes a father. He knows that this will of the living force, and that he was wrong for mistrusting his values. Despite not being a conventional Jedi, Anakin still agreed with their core principles. His faith in the Force is renewed, and he meditates on his feelings. Through his time of contemplation, he finds that he was feeling prompted to tell the Council about his relationship with Padme. If it was the will of the Force, he would stay in the Order. And if not, then so be it. He addresses the Jedi Council the next day, and they're more understanding than he originally anticipated. Realistically, they know that they need his strength more than ever, and his loyalty against Palpatine swayed even more opinions among the council members that he was actually the chosen one. They continue to let him serve as a knight, But they strip him of his council position. Anakin knows that this is for the best, as now he has more time to focus on his family and finding his place within the Force. When Palpatine arrives on Mandalore, he finds a planet in chaos. After Maul's sudden departure, his various warlords and subordinates are fighting for power. The Republic's siege of the planet also caused many of the locals to rise up against Bo-Katan and her Vizsla loyalists. Mandalore is once again fractured. However, the arrival of Palpatine changes things. He's initially met with distrust. What is the Chancellor of the Republic doing on their neutral planet? There were those who tried to challenge him, but they were no match for his power. The Mandalorian leaders agree to listen to what he has to say, especially after witnessing his powerful command of the Force. He appeals to Mandalorian pride and culture, playing on the historical distaste that they have for the Jedi. He claims the Republic occupation of their neutral world was not his doing, but that of the dirty Jedi. He also tells a story about how he was betrayed by the Republic that he loved, stating that it was becoming a theocratic autocracy run by the Jedi. He repeats his iconic line, "I love democracy. I love the Republic," before saying that the Mandalorians are his only hope to rebel against the tyranny of the Jedi, and that they need to reclaim their warrior heritage to save their people from assimilation. He is met with a wave of applause from the masses. The Mandalorian leaders feel emboldened and decide to join Palpatine, seeing that he is a powerful figure to rally behind. Now, Palpatine has an army. He sets his sights on Coruscant, ready to do whatever it took to take back what he believed to be his rightful place as the Chancellor of the Republic. Before Palpatine attacks Coruscant, he sends a message to the Separatist leaders as Darth Sidious. In this timeline, the Separatists are weakened by the losses of Dooku and Grievous. However, due to the massive corporate support that still commands the war, the Separatists are still pushing for their cause. They believe that their eve of victory is nigh when the chaos that engulfs the Republic and the execution of Order 65. Palpatine commands that they convene on Mustafar, where they will be greeted by his new allies, the Mandalorians, who he claims have joined the Separatists after the Republic War ravaged their world. This was a lie. The Separatist leaders convene on Mustafar, where Gar Saxon states that Sidious commanded all droid armies to be rerouted to Coruscant for a massive offensive to hit the Republic once again while it's weak. The business leaders believe that this would be their best opportunity to strike, especially when they had been so weakened by the deaths of Dooku, Grievous, and Trench. So they send out an order to all of their forces that states for them to meet Sidious on Mandalore and regroup before launching their final assault. Following that, the Mandalorians slaughter the Separatist leaders on Palpatine's behalf, as he believes that they will be a threat to his future power. Palpatine now has full control of the Separatist forces, and the army that he needs to take back the Republic capital is there. Palpatine then sends out a broadcast to the galaxy, calling for all who are loyal to the rightful Chancellor of the Republic to rise up on other Republic worlds and fight for his cause. Many of these revolts are quickly squashed by Republic forces, but the Republic fears that the safety of their capital after these attacks is in jeopardy. Many people in the Republic hierarchy expect Palpatine to attack the capital planet, especially now that they know he's an egotistical megalomaniac. Mon Mothma, the acting Chancellor of the Republic, orders the mustering of all clone forces who are putting down insurgent forces on other planets to Coruscant, ready for an attack. Now, the moment that you've all been waiting for, Palpatine's return to Coruscant. Palpatine's forces arrive over the Republic capital in full force. A vast fleet of Mandalorian starships and Trade Federation vessels surround the Republic blockade of the planet, ready to punch through. A battle ensues filled with fallen starfighters, rapid exchanges of laser fire, and heavy casualties on both sides. Eventually, Palpatine's forces are able to incapacitate one of the Venators, leaving a small hole that ground forces are able to use in order to land on the planet's surface. While the blockade is able to destroy many of the transports, there are more that still manage to break through. When they land, Palpatine cackles in ecstasy. This is his moment, and he will seize it. He leads his troop off of the Trade Federation transport ships and commences a ground assault. Due to the Sith's immense force power and the sheer number of droids, the Republic forces were pushed back to the Jedi Temple. They hole up behind the ancient walls, ready to defend their world from this maniac. Anakin leads the 501st. Obi-Wan commands the 212. Upon Anakin's request, Ahsoka arrives on Coruscant to help fight against Palpatine's immense forces. Mace Windu had survived and led his own battalion of clones alongside Yoda. They are ready to defend their home against the onslaught of Mandalorians and droids, no matter what it was going to cost them. Meanwhile, at the Senate building, Mon Mothma's office is transformed into a temporary war room. She is surrounded by Republic troops and politicians eager to aid in the defense effort. Among those politicians is Admiral Tarkin, who's actually a military official. But because of his status, he'd been dabbling in politics, and so I'm referring to him as a politician in this case, who still secretly harbors loyalty to Palpatine, as we saw earlier. Tarkin has the idea that if he kills Mon Mothma, when Palpatine eventually takes Coruscant, he'll be made into a hero. He knows that he'll be arrested by the Republic, but he's also almost certain that Palpatine will succeed in his invasion. So he does something unthinkable. He pulls out his blaster pistol, aims it at Mon Mothma, and fires. Fortunately, at the last moment, one of her clone shock trooper guards sees what's going on and tackles Tarkin. His bolt goes astray, still managing to hit the intern Chancellor in the shoulder. She's battered, but not broken. Tarkin is apprehended and thrown in prison, remaining composed. He smirks softly, knowing that he had done his duty to the rightful Chancellor and that soon he would be free. At the Jedi Temple, Palpatine's forces eventually push their way through the massive doors, continuing to mow down clones. The Jedi Temple Guard, who Palpatine recruited to his cause, ends up rallying a few other disenfranchised Jedi with him, and they end up attacking many of their comrades, but quickly fall due to the clones' attack capacity and because of the immense number of Jedi that they're fighting. The Jedi Temple Guard who joined Palpatine falls in battle and is happy that he was able to do his duty. As this is going on, Palpatine feeds on his anger and berates the Jedi Gatekeeper, Master Jurek, with Force Lightning. Jurek can't take the barrage for long and eventually dies. Palpatine, who was never able to recover his red lightsabers from the Republic prison, takes Jurek's saber and begins to wield it, cutting down all other Jedi who got in his way like they were butter. The situation looks dire for the Republic's capital world and for democracy itself. However, as Palpatine continues to advance through the temple, something stops him. He sees Anakin leading the 501st alongside Rex. Palpatine goes into a rage. He remembers Anakin's betrayal and wants to get revenge on the young Jedi. He rushes at him, screaming with a dark side rage as power flows through his veins. Anakin sees the incoming attack and dodges, telling his troops to get back. Rex organizes the 501st, getting them out of the way as Anakin and Palpatine face off in a surprisingly even duel. Anakin learned from both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, feeling calmness flow through him as he parried Palpatine's blows. He feels the living force course through his being, knowing that no matter the outcome of this fight, the will of the Force would be carried out. Palpatine continues to tap into his emotions to contort the Force, coming at Anakin with more ferocious strikes. Eventually, Palpatine becomes tired of this play duel. He throws the saber of Master Jurek to the side and begins to use his greatest asset, the dark side of the Force. He blasts Anakin with a powerful burst of Force lightning, one that far outdoes the one that he used on Mace Windu. Anakin blocks it with his saber and appears to be a repeat of their initial confrontation. Anakin is struggling, and Palpatine grins, reveling in the anticipation of his soon-to-be victory. However, Anakin thinks of his family. He envisions a galaxy where Palpatine is left alone to raise his children in a place controlled by this monster, and Anakin can't bear it. He closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and finally taps into his emotions for the first time since that fatal blow he laid against Count Dooku. Anakin drops his saber and begins to absorb Palpatine's Force lightning, just like Yoda did in the main timeline. Anakin feels his emotions rush through him, channeling them into this battle with the ultimate evil in the galaxy. Palpatine blasts Anakin more, but Anakin does not buckle. He continues to absorb the lightning. Finally, Palpatine gives way, exhausted by the toll that the dark side has taken on his body and soul. In this moment of weakness, Anakin pushes back all of the lightning that Palpatine shot at him. The Sith Lord is caught off guard, instantly being caught up in a sea of his own lightning. He cries out in pain, but it is of no use. In a matter of seconds, Palpatine is reduced to a pile of ashes, and the disgraced Chancellor is dead. Without a commander, Palpatine's forces become divided. The Mandalorians are competent warriors, but they become confused and end up making grievous mistakes that lead to their demise. In the confusion, the clones are able to take out the droid control ship and once again gain the advantage of numbers, as the droids are deactivated on the planet's surface. The Mandalorians flee, realizing that they've finally lost the battle. How could the Republic ever return to normal after this insane event? With the Separatists gone and Palpatine defeated, the Senate gets back to normal operations. They formally elect Mon Mothma to be the Chancellor and begin to once again demilitarize the Republic, while simultaneously trying to gut Palpatine's corruption. Padme continues to serve in the Senate, being assigned to numerous committees in the new initiatives. Anakin has far more time to once again focus on his relationship with the Force and with his family. He raises Luke and Leia in the ways of the Force, developing their abilities and introducing them to Force users like Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Yoda, in order to act as mentor figures, kind of like aunts and uncles. Finally, there's peace. The Republic is stable. The Jedi are back to their old ways of exploring the Force rather than that of a corrupt Senate, after deciding to take a break from galactic politics due to their lack of clarity in the Palpatine situation. Finally, once again, galaxy had peace.